Hey everyone, welcome back. So previously we've been talking about using Claude Code to carry out the planning session, the implementation detail, and things like that whenever there's a new feature request. So we talked about planning, we talked about some of the implementation details. In this video, we're going to show you guys how to bring things in production and push that final container image. So then the user can then see the reflection and changes on your web app. So let me share my screen, and then again, we're going to do this completely live so that everyone get a genuine, holistic experience without having to, you know, me post-production, editing the video, things like that. So right in front of me, this is the web app. Let me log in with a sample persona, Jiangdou, and then you'll be able to see what Jiangdou is doing. For example, in his drive, let me refresh. There are a couple of files, and then I can maybe click on one file. I say load. This is one of the web app that he's been building, e-bike pricing guide. And then there's another one, maybe has something to do with bicycle service, right? And then maybe there's another one that he built earlier, right? So some of these, he can then push this button, go to market, which then will show up and displayed on this table here. Let's find Jungle e-bike research. That's the web app that he built, right? E-bike pricing guide, things like that. And user can use this platform as a community to then communicate with each other, give each other ratings, comments, things like that. So that's how this is built and designed. The feature request is essentially to enhance the stickiness of this page. And what I mean by that is to introduce this comments area, right? Right now, this particular project does not have any comments. Let me click on Jen Smith, which is another persona, and this persona actually has a couple of comments, right? So that's the feature we've been building. We talk about planning, we talk about implementation detail from previous video. And again, the problem statement is how do we increase the stickiness of this page for our community, for our end users? And the feature request is this comment section. So with all that being said, and let's say now the feature is built, how do you want to bring it into production, right? So first things first, let me show you my Claude code. First things first is you want to test it out locally, right? When I say test out the feature locally, I'm assuming you have some sort of Docker image, you have Docker desktop open, and deploy the image, and then it's running on localhost so that you can interact with the features just to make sure that the buttons, the bells and whistles designed behind the scene is behaving the way that you intended them to behave, right? And then once that's done, you see, for example, here, I'm trying to fix the upvote button. Previously, it's not working. So here, I'm trying to fix that. And once that's done, this is what I say, right? I say, hey, this is a registered name. This is how you log in a server. I already logged in. Now you just got to tag and make the final push, right? So after this, the cloud will automatically know that we are now trying to take this Docker image and push into some sort of a semi-production environment, right? In the sense that use a Docker tag and then give a new image ID or some sort of tag number. And there's an actual Docker push here to push that image into the correct registry so that on the cloud, we can then see where that registry is, right? So once that's done, here it says that, okay, perfect, Docker image v2.0.6 has been successfully tagged and pushed to Azure Container Registry. So this assumes that, obviously me as an engineer, as a product developer, I have access to one of the, if not two or three of the cloud platform, right? Azure, AWS, GCP. Here I'm using Azure to host this container, right? So let me take you to Azure and let me take you to container registry. And this is the container registry. And here I have a couple of different web apps. this particular registry is Win360 AI Assistant. And then right now we are on v2.0.6. And that's the image that contains the latest feature, right? And as you can see, I've done plenty of things here. Every feature is a particular push. Every push follows certain framework, right? So once it's done, I can then go to the web app and in the deployment center, in the web app, here it's called a Win360 search. It's a web app. I can then find the container name and then point the image tag to the correct tag, right? In this case, it's v2.0.6, which is exactly what we just pushed here, right? Docker tag, blah, 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 v2.0.6. So that's the image that I pushed to the container registry, and that's the image that this web app will choose to support the backend of the web app. So as you can see, I'm doing things a little bit out of convention here, right? Because if you are working in the actual production team at the industry level with fully scalable platform, you're going to be using Kubernetes to scale. Here, what I'm doing is doing things a little bit differently, right? Because part of this is my own learning purpose, right? So the container of the backend, all that stuff, I'm actually doing it on AWS. The front end with the app design, it's actually on Azure, right? So that's how I orchestrate this thing. And then in terms of the Lambda function, all that stuff, that's using AWS CLI, right? So previous video, we talked about how to use AWS CLI. Uh, then that's using AWS, right? That's a different cloud platform. So that's the relationship here. That's how I separate front and back end. Again, AWS has all the backend stuff, database stuff, and reasons obvious, right? Because S3 is cheaper. S3 is cheaper than the blob storage on Azure. So that's, my reasoning for how I do things this way. It's because I have an ROI that I want to serve, and I'm trying to hit that benchmark, right? I'm trying to hit that KPI of the project. I want to deliver high impact with as little cost as I possibly can. And that's the purpose of why we're doing things this way. Um, of course, in production, you're probably going to choose one platform. You're going to go to Kubernetes. You're going to scale from there. Okay. So now that we understood the infrastructure, and we have Docker image pushed to container registry and the web app. It's updated with the correct image. Now everything's kosher, everything's good to go, right? I can then, interact with this web app how I want it to be, right? So for example, I can say, this is a new comment. I can say submit, then obviously the feature will work and the feature is released here, right? The comment is released here. And then I can say refresh if you want to. I can then select this comment and then I can say edit. If I say edit, it will pop out this window for editing. I can say, let me edit something here. And you say save edit, it will update the comments here, boom, there you go. It says edited. That makes perfect sense. I did edit that. And you can also pick something else. You can say upvote. You will upvote here of the other people's comments that, for example, if you like, you can upvote. If you don't like, you can downvote, things like that. And this counter will continue to check for other users as well. So hopefully this creates at least the basic features for this community, at least it's a setup, right? It's a setup such that all the bells and whistles are defined behind the scene. And then if a user wants to talk to each other, if users want to comment on each other's project, at least we have some sort of framework, right? Now we can then benchmark and to try to understand, okay, um, we have the features built. We know the features working. Here's the app, right? How do we measure the ROI? How do we measure success? Is we go back to the end user, we see how often they are using this app. We see how much they're using this. If there's a stickiness there, if they're gonna keep using it, then we can start collecting data, right? So that's why database is super important. That's why I want to do things at a relatively semi-production level. So Let's say now this feature is done, and let's say me as an engineer, I deliver the code, and then the code is ready. For example, you can go to github.com, full stack. Okay. So that is the web app that I use to support all of the stack or backend front end of that website, Win360 search. And here is the fashion that I typically follow, right? Every time there's a feature request, the engineer need to create a new branch. That's why there's a bunch of feature branch here. And once the feature is completed for that branch, they will then merge to the main branch. And once they merge to the main branch, they need to keep up the documentation saying, hey, here's a new version, v 2.0.6, whatever that is. And in this new version, here's a checklist of things that need to be done. And then what the means and what this ticket means is this need to be done, right? So obviously these things should then be reflected in your Jira board. I can then probably go to subtask or whatever, put this in here. Let me actually go to the comment here. I can put this ticketing items here, right? Make sure the color makes sense, and then say save. And that should be what's in progress, right? Once it's pushed to the main branch, then I can say this is done. So this is no longer in progress. I can then move this to done, and that means that ticket is done, right? And then in terms of GitHub repo, it's merged to the main branch, and then on main branch, I can then see what's going on. If it's the feature branch, let me show you the feature branch. That's the market data feature branch, and that's what I use to basically develop all the bells and whistles. Let me show you the commit. This is the commit that it wrote, right? This is what we did in terms of the implementation. This is what we did in terms of how to create data. This is a backend structure. Here's the AWS deployment, bug fix, right? Whatever bugs that's being fixed, buttons not working, whatever, like things like that. It's all being documented here. And once it's pushed, it's saved on GitHub. So everything's kosher, everything's traceable, and I have a way of understanding where I am in the software development lifecycle. So hopefully I made that clear, right? And then hopefully, together with the previous two video, you get a holistic POV point of view of how I carry out a task like this to handle a feature request. So with all that being said, now we can then go to this web app here, and then we can then let user to use it. Right now, you can call your product people. Now I'm gonna be the product person. I'm gonna start calling users, right? In this case, who knows? Maybe let's say I'm using this for my class project, and maybe users just my students, right? So in that case, I'll say, hey, hi class, this feature is ready. Please go on to this website, try this feature, and then let's see how things work, right? So now I'm going to stop being an engineer and now be a product person. And then the product person is to communicate with the end user and then see what exactly is it that they're doing, gather user feedback, and amongst these feedback, maybe then it becomes a feature request. Um, and this feature request leads to another set of or another round of development. You can kind of call that a spring or whatever. And then that cycle continues, right? So that's the roadmap that we're doing. That's the framework that we're running under. I've been doing that for a decade at this point, and I think at the industry level, this is pretty much up to standard of what most of the teams are doing out there, which is why I want to make this video to share with my audience, to share with my students, to kind of give you guys um, a holistic view of how things work in a semi-production manner, and also what are some of the areas AI can help, and what are some of the areas AI cannot help, right? Um, so with all that being said, now I'm going to take on a product role. I'm going to talk to end users as they're giving me feedback. I'm going to look at the data, and then I'm going to try to assess, okay, what's working, what's not working. I have traceability here implemented using LangFuse. It's tracing every single API call here that user has been used. whatever it is that they're talking to the LLM on the platform, it's being traced here. I can go to my dashboard. I can check hallucination. If there's hallucination, obviously I want to check that. If there's a cost, I want to be able to manage my cost. Let me increase the window. Let's say 30 days. I want to, manage my cost. And same goes with usage, right? Past 30 days, what is my cost? What is my usage? What is the observability? Things like that. And this helps me with the ROI, right? This helps me with the ROI because now I can understand what is the cost that it takes to support this platform. And then on the other side, I can then evaluate how much the user like it, right? So there's a whole lot of things that can be done from here. But hopefully this is a good stopping point, and hopefully this video shares some insights and share some light for my audience. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like, and then I'll see you in the next video.